Hi, everybody. Happy Friday before the holiday week. We hope that you guys are hanging in there. It's been definitely pretty wild on our end. But we wanted to hop on here today to kind of follow up on Veterans Day and chat a little bit about Premier's experience really leaning into the military spouse community. So we'll kind of talk about that a little bit and some things that we've learned in that process. And then I would love to kind of chat with our special guest here, Megan. Megan is an amazing talent business partner here at Premier, which in our language basically means she works more closely with the clients in our company and our client roster, if you will. But she actually was a recruiter before moving into this position. So it's just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to hiring, and then also amazing kind of anecdotal experience from your personal life as a mill spouse. So we'll just kind of jump in. I know that we're just going to be conscious about time because it is a Friday. We don't want to bombard you too much. But just to kind of kick it off. So you guys have probably seen us posting about it always, really kind of speaking a little bit more publicly about our commitment to the military community in general, to veterans who are navigating that military to civilian workforce transition, and then also military spouses, which we've learned really kind of get left out of a lot of conversations in hiring. So what we've done over the past, like I said, couple years is partner with organizations that really live, breathe, and work in this space. And that way we can hopefully amplify their efforts and kind of be a partner to them in that. So we've partnered with the Military Spouse Employment Partnership, which is an amazing relationship we just cherish. We also work with Hire Heroes, Recruit Military, Blue Star Families. The list kind of goes on. And of course, that's more of the official ones, but we also have more casual relationships with individuals from the military community. And it's been just a really amazing experience. To be quite frank, when we first started it, I was tasked with kind of helping identify and build relationships with the military community. And although I am the child of veterans, my grandfathers were in World War II and the Korea War, and then my dad was in Vietnam. So although I've had people in my life who were from the military community, I actually had very little kind of understanding about what really stood in the way with gaining traction coming from, government work, working for the armed forces into civilian life. So in that journey, we've all been learning together, but one of the biggest takeaways that we've really found is that finding a job is easy, but finding gainful employment and a career, not just a job, is challenging, especially for people coming out of this space. So with that, we've just really leaned into training our recruiters of how to market people from the military community, be that people who have served in the armed forces, military spouses, people who once served and are now a military spouse, and just really being understanding about what roadblocks stand in their way and how we as facilitators for the hiring process can help them in that transition. So we've done a lot of things. Like I said, we've had some trainings. We've had people come talk to us to inform us. We ourselves have attended, events with the Military Spouse Employment Partnership to just really understand the lingo and just get familiarized with this community that really is the lifeblood of our country in so many ways. So with that, we obviously have a great platform, which is Ajna, the applicant tracking system that we use. We always talk about why it's such a great tool for the military community and military spouses, because it is an unbiased, equitable hiring platform. And one really cool thing about it is that you can custom fit your job search into, like, we'll build it for you, so to speak. So whatever you're looking for, we'll match you with that. And one way that it can be really beneficial to the military community is that you can market your skills in a way that might not be as easy to market on a resume. So one way that we do that is by kind of eliminating jumpiness that sometimes can be associated with a military spouse community, in particular, just because you are moving from place to place. If you're, if you have I think it's PCS. I'm not exactly sure if you're changing your permanent location. Um, you're going to be uprooted, and it's going to be hard for you to actually build a career for yourself. So we are huge advocates for why we are well suited to work on this. But we know it's a group effort. And I think it's always so important to be able to speak to individuals like Megan, and we actually have some vets who work with us now, and that's just in our internal teams, not necessarily our contractors. But it's great to keep pulse checking with them to see if they have any insight, or if they have, tips for how we can continue to do better. So we brought Megan in today to kind of pick her brain a little bit. Of course, we don't want to completely boil down any of her identities, but it is so valuable to us that she is a military spouse and kind of can speak to the demands in that arena. And of course, we'd love to bring more of our vets in to chat with us here. But thought we would start with Megan, especially since she has recently transitioned into her new role. So, Megan, I would love if you could take a moment or two just to tell us a little bit about your background, whether that be your career background or your military affiliation, and would just love to hear kind of how we came together, how you found us.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me first. And actually, I didn't find you. You guys found me, which is nice. So I was discovered on LinkedIn, working another recruiting job in the interim. But as far as my experience goes with work and kind of my background, I'm 100% a person product of the jumpiness. So my resume is kind of all over the place. I've got a lot of like weird odd jobs. And like you said, it's very hard to kind of hunker down on a career, especially when you're not the primary in the home. So lots of jumpiness, lots of pieces. And I'm just kind of like, take a chance on me. I've got lots of skills from all different arenas. I'm a great person. Just have a conversation with me. And that's kind of how I go. So you walk in just being very confident and comfortable in your skills and abilities, and you just kind of have to blow them out of the water. But the one thing that I can say that I love the most about with Premiere and the platform and everything, when you're looking at a profile like mine, I can put all of my skills, qualifications in there, and it will give me 3 years of experience with my recruiting or with customer service or hotel management, because I've had tons of jobs. But it's nice because it's not, okay, a year here, 2 years there, 3 years here. It just bunkles it all in one and shows that I have extensive experience in all of these different arenas, but it doesn't matter when I was there, that experience happened. So I think that the most important piece is that that transferable skills are recognized when working with spouses and veterans in that particular community, because although that the job is done in a different arena or it's done in a different organization, the skills are the same. So if I was a manager in this aspect here and I've managed people or I have worked with people, my people skills, my customer service, all of those things are transferable to another arena. It's just a different team. I think that's probably the one thing that I can say is the most important for employers, organizations, or anyone working with veteran or mil spouse communities, is just to recognize their transferable skills, because they're very valuable in any arena that you put them in.
Totally. I remember when I was a recruiter, the way that I used to, and this was in a former life, it's been a little bit, we didn't actually have the platform that we have now back when I was recruiting, but I remember always kind of telling my candidates who I worked with, especially because I kind of worked mostly on contract opportunities back then. And, the way that hiring is, sometimes if, like you mentioned, you have jumpiness, which we hate that word, but if that's how you're perceived on your resume, it can really kind of lock you into just being in this endless cycle of contract roles. And if most people, like, let's be real, contract roles serve their purpose, but once you find what you want to do and you feel like you've gotten to that place of that next step in your career, it just doesn't cut it. And one thing that we really noticed from you, Megan, I feel like you're just a shining testimonial in this way, is that maybe you have a different background than maybe what we might be used to seeing. Of course, it's because life demanded it. But one thing that I think is also so important is what compiles who you are that doesn't come across on that piece of paper, right? So whenever I was recruiting, I always wanted to dig into that when I was talking to people. Like, what can I put forward about you that you can't read when you just look at a resume? I want to be able to market you that way. And one of the really cool things about like I said, our platform is that we're really able to dig into that and also show our clients that from the beginning. But I love that we found you. I still think we found each other. But I think that you're just, like I said, a great example of how that experience can be so valuable. Like, look at you, you've already been promoted to a new role. It obviously, doesn't reflect your work ethic. Like, you have a great work ethic. You have so many skills that you could tap into. But I think sometimes in the traditional kind of hiring that we're still trying to break out of, that doesn't really come across. So I think in my experience that everything that you've had in your career has helped you, with our company, but also the things that maybe you're not going to be put on your resume, right? Like, how many times you probably had to pack up your house and, relocate somewhere and get everybody on the same page. And that's a ton of work too. So there's a lot of grit in this community, whether you are someone who is actively in the armed forces, a veteran, or, a military spouse. One thing I will say is that nothing stops this community. And I think that the more that we can really be in your corner, the better. So with that, I would love to hear, now that you, of course, have worked with candidates, now you're working a little bit closer with clients. Do you have any, I guess, advice for the candidates out there, how they can really make sure that they're marketing themselves correctly, whether that's by partnering with, say, a staffing firm or just like general networking tips? Would love to hear your thoughts on what this community can do to really make sure that they are, again, marketing themselves correctly for the civilian workforce.
Absolutely. So the first piece is always use your resources. I didn't realize that there were so many organizations and so many places out there that give preference. You don't want to say preference, okay, well, let me give you a couple extra points because you served military or because you were a spouse, but those are the types of organizations that understand your lifestyle. They understand where you're coming from, and they will be more willing to have a conversation with you, and they have great career opportunities than just your regular organization. So be mindful of what's available to you. While my spouse was active, Fleet Family Support Center, I didn't even know what that was. And he was like, hey, go to this building. They'll give you tons of information. And they give you lots of information. Some of it is useful. Some of it applies to you. Some of it doesn't. But just take it and sift through it and see if there's something in there that you could possibly use. Also, just use your network. So if you are in the process of looking for a job, or you're in the process of going on interviews and you keep getting those doors shut, kind of ask someone to step in and say, hey, can you take a look at my resume and see maybe what I'm missing out on? I know a lot of people hear the term tailor your resume. Some people's like, you can't tailor your resume. It's considered lying. It really isn't, because if you're applying for a job that you have to hone in on certain skills that you need to highlight, tailoring it is going to put those things in the forefront and not have them focus solely on your military experience or solely on your customer service. You want to pull out the things that are most important for the job that you want. So you're applying for something that you want, not something that you typically can do. And then also, more so, like, I know you said on the candidate side, but I know that there are employers watching, possibly clients that are watching, people that are part of the military community, especially active duty service that's transitioning from being 100% on the field to going into a civilian job. There's so much more than a security clearance. With working with the veteran population on my last position, a lot of times we're like, I keep getting these jobs because I've got the security clearance. I don't want to do this job anymore. I'm getting out because I want a different job. The security clearance is nice. The position that they worked in the military definitely, of course, contributes to everything that they can do for your organization, but look deeper than the security clearance because there's so much more underneath that surface. But resources are going to be your best friend. Your network is going to be your best friend. If you don't use LinkedIn, use LinkedIn. There's tons of people that will give you free advice, like this session here, or just people in your community that will post your resume or give you job advice or send openings to you that are well within what you're looking for. There's also lots of mentoring spats that you can go sign up for, get a mentor. I'm signed up for one myself, so people can pick my brain and say, "Hey, look at my resume. Can you give me some prep?" Don't turn down prep if you've got, if you have interviews coming up. a little bit of prep helps, just to make sure that your camera's working, your sound is good,
Yeah.
that you're displaying the information that's most important for you to land the job that you really want. Again, not the one that you're capable of, but the one that you want is
Yes.
the most important piece.
Totally. And that security clearance piece is, I mean, I could totally see that happening, but you're so right. It's like, yes, I have this thing, but just because I check this box, I'm interested in doing other stuff and I'm incredibly skilled. One of the, things that I want to mention before we officially wrap up is that we actually made that kind of move to bring someone in to speak to our recruiters about how to market people whose last job was in the military in the civilian workforce, because you could be ignoring like a director level candidate and thinking that they're just like entry level, they haven't done anything, just because it doesn't compute in the civilian mind, right? So being able to really understand that, and I would say as a candidate, partnering with, a recruiter who gets that, who understands how to be able to, like you mentioned, tailor your resume, maybe change the titles of your roles that you held to kind of be a little bit more civilian geared, and maybe in parentheses you could kind of put the military title for it. But those types of things can go a long way, and 100% in your corner when you talk about clients just understanding that difference and being advocates for it without completely undermining everything else they bring to the table. I think that can be a little difficult, but yeah, it's definitely a journey, but I couldn't think of a group more well suited to kind of navigate this stuff. Really highly encourage you guys, if you haven't already, to connect with Megan. I will drop her, I believe she's tagged in one of our last posts, but I'll make sure that her username for LinkedIn is tagged in our comments here so you can follow up with her. Again, here to kind of just be a resource for you. We often share our hot jobs. We share updates that we have, blog posts that are crafted specifically for the military community and mil spouses. So highly encourage you, give Megan a follow if you want to connect with her directly. Otherwise, subtle plug for Premiere. Also give us a follow if you want to keep up with us. And finally, no LinkedIn Live would be complete without a little plug of our hot jobs. So Megan, I'd love to hear if you're kind of working on anything right now that you'd like to highlight. What's on your desk?
I do. I have a couple of positions. So they're kind of scattered. So the first one is a head of finance position. This one is located in San Francisco. So they are open to candidates that are interested in getting into nonprofit or transitioning from one nonprofit to another, just to get their finance department back up into tip top shape. Typically, they're looking for someone with experience in the ranges of 4 to 7 years of experience, kind of in between, so that they have some opportunity to grow within that company. Another one that we have is a head of marketing position. This one is centrally based out of New York City. It does have remote opportunities. This one has a fairly handsome salary base, I believe so. But they're also open to fairly junior profiles. So someone who has recently graduated from college, who has held multiple internships or worked with ambassador programs, are definitely attractive profiles for this client. And then my last one, we're looking for a senior EA out of New York City that has kind of like that tenure. So more on the 14 to 15 years worth of experience, but has worked with global companies. Lots of international travel associated with this position. So if you like to travel, if you've worked with a global conglomerate and you like fashion and beauty and things like that, you can definitely reach out to us about that position and we can share some more details with you.
That's awesome. That reminds me of that's like the right hand man or woman EA position, right? But yeah, love that. If any of those sound of interest to anyone tuning in, or if you know anyone, send them our way. We'd be happy to partner with you, see what we can do. And as Megan mentioned, we work on a lot of remote opportunities, flexible opportunities, pretty much anything that fits your life, we'll work with it. So please keep us in mind. We would love to be an advocate for anyone in the veteran community, armed forces, or even military spouse and beyond. We are here to help and connect you with the really fun clients that we work with. So Megan, thank you so much for coming on with me today. We are so excited that you're part of our company, and it's just so exciting to see you continue to hit new heights. So thank you for being here, and we hope to have you back soon.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, guys. Talk to you soon.